Welcome to our world. Won't you come on in? Waiting just for you. Welcome to our world.
Okay, this is so exciting because we get to continue our discussion on
Well,
You're supposed to say-
hurricanes, climate change.
climate change.
Well, that's not when you started this. That wasn't what we went in with. You said the topics could be hurricane or hurricanes or free speech.
Well, yeah, but we went with
I know. I'm just saying you didn't say the topics could be climate change.
Okay, so
or
let's say
free speech.
this is the part 2 of our episode about
Why?
climate change or free speech.
Why
Which-
is free speech? Why is that the saying? Free implying that
freedom.
it doesn't cost anything.
Well, technically it doesn't.
Except your life.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's true.
Part 2.
Okay.
Come back in the future for our free speech
Okay.
episode.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
going to be super exciting.
It will be at some point in the future.
It's not this one. This is part 2 of
But for
climate change.
now, yes, for now, let's continue with
I wonder where the climate clock is.
I
at.
I keep giving you like the.
Okay, go ahead. Let's try again.
For now, let's continue with. Just
I
forget
feel
it.
like this is like Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football.
Yes, exactly. You
Okay.
keep pulling the football out.
Enjoy.
We're done. Well, no, we're not done. We're beginning.
We've just begun.
Yes. No, we're actually in the middle.
Stop.
Okay. No. So here's the thing, right? To me, this one event or any one given event is like on a small scale, demonstrates the bigger problem, right?
Mhm.
And before we talk about climate change, let's talk about the environment. I don't know anyone who wants dirty air, dirty water. 'Cause yes, I like, just so I can have, I don't know, this big factory where people can work. I don't care that it's polluting the environment and, ruining life other than people. No one wants that. But, and I think there are very few people that necessarily argue that the climate doesn't change, right? And I'm not talking about, well, July is different than January. I'm not talking about
really
that.
quickly because you're talking about,
Mhm.
we all want clean air and clean water. I think part of the issue though is if they were to put up a giant factory for something
Mhm.
that like did tremendous damage to the environment,
Mhm.
if they were to do that like here in Orlando near a major city,
Mhm.
there would be a huge outcry because people live here.
Mhm.
If you're just putting something like that in a remote area where people aren't going to be directly affected by it, we're talking about two different things then. Because I want clean air and clean
Right.
water and clean whatever. But I also want the stuff that this factory produces
Mhm.
and whatever that is. And so and I'm just talking about any single individual,
Right.
if I don't directly see the effects of whatever it is that I don't want to see,
Mhm.
then it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind.
Well, I agree with that. But I guess what I'm trying to say, I want to stop saying my point is because I say that
I know,
so
you
often.
say that so often.
Okay.
We don't know
What
what
I'm
your point is.
contending-
Every
what I'm
time you say that, it's like
Go
the
ahead.
boy who cried wolf.
Yeah. We
We
should,
don't know what your point is.
Yeah. No, I guess my contention.
point.
My contention. My contention is that if people are voting on that, just if people know about that, okay, they could weigh the options and say, yeah, I like having cheap stuff, but I also really want clean water, and they could decide if they know about
Okay.
it.
Well, I also feel though like the problem is there you want to talk about, fear mongering and all this stuff. I feel like I as an individual do not even know enough about the subject itself, which is wild when you consider how much people talk about it.
You don't
I
need
think
to.
people no, What? No.
The
Okay, let me
science
finish this
is
sentence.
settled. You
Let me
don't
finish
need to
this
learn
sentence.
anything about
Let
it.
me finish this sentence.
Scientists agree. Go ahead. 4 out of 5 dentists agree. Go ahead.
4 out of 5 is only 80%. So I don't know why we're using that as like
It's a
good
super majority.
No. Anyway, because you either have people, and maybe this is me just not being able to find information, but anything I've ever seen about climate change, like from the time that it, became a big deal
Mhm.
to people, is either it's one side or the other. It's either like, we need to do something, our planet's dying. We need to immediately do something, and this is a big deal, and I'm going to stand in the street and block the highway and make all of you late to work because this is a big deal and you guys need to understand that. It's either that or climate change doesn't exist and this is absurd.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's part of the problem, not trying to go back to our two-party thing, and I'm not equating necessarily directly.
No, it ties back to that, though.
I know,
does.
but I don't want to talk about that
I don't
anymore. but my point is, again, we have the two extremes, and I feel like I don't actually know how many people are in the middle on this stuff,
Right.
because that's all you ever see.
Well, here's the thing. I think if
I don't even know what the middle looks like.
if you were to get into the specifics, and I think this goes for most issues, I think most people would be somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you take, for instance, guns, right? I don't think most people are like far right, where they just want anyone to be able to walk into Walmart or Dollar General. They don't sell guns there, but my point, I don't think they do.
Dollar General? I don't know.
Yeah, every time I go there, I can't find one. But they don't want you. They don't want you to be able to go in and buy like a rocket propelled grenade launcher.
Okay,
at
this
Walmart.
isn't
But-
about guns.
But my point is, but on the other hand, I think most people have no issue with someone being able
This
to buy a
isn't
gun
about
to defend
guns.
themselves. What?
This isn't about guns.
No. My point is, I think most people are somewhere in the middle, right? Somewhere on the spectrum.
But my point is, what does that? We're all on the spectrum
No,
somewhere,
don't.
aren't we?
No, we're not.
We are. You definitely are. So I don't know why we're having this conversation.
Spectrum internet is what we use.
Okay, I knew that was coming.
I know.
But the issue is what I'm saying.
We can get
I don't
an
even
endorsement
know,
deal.
even if most of the people are in the middle, I
Mhm.
couldn't even tell you what that looks like. What is
Yeah.
that? Using a metal straw instead of plastic? Because
Right.
here's the issue. You have, let's take, for example, like the doomsday clock in
Mhm.
New York.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Mhm.
Do y'all know what the doomsday clock is? Would you like to explain what this is?
The potential for nuclear war?
No.
Is that the one? Are you sure?
No. That's no.
For nuclear, basically the
No. It's the one I just saw
or
a
is it the
video
debt
about
clock?
this.
Is it
Oh,
the
the
debt
dead?
clock?
The what clock?
The national debt.
Oh, not the national. No, it's the clock. It's like in 8 years or something. Is the point at which I just saw a video
Wait
about
a minute.
this.
Are you telling me this is to do with the climate change thing?
Did you not know this?
No, this is new. I have not
Okay,
heard
it's
this.
probably not doomsday, because now that you said that, I'm like, the doomsday is for something with
No,
with
it wouldn't be.
nuclear
It wouldn't
power.
surprise me if that's what they are calling it.
I don't know. Anyway, there's this clock in Times Square
Uh-huh.
in New York City, and it's counting down. I think the video, now I don't remember. I think it was 8 years, and the person doing the video was like, oh, what is this? And like pretending like they didn't know what it was, and then says, oh yeah, no, that's the point at which after which irreversible damage will have been done to the planet. And then the video is the guy saying like, well, why don't people care about this? Why is everybody ignoring this? And blah, blah, blah. And so it's like, how did you not know about this? You didn't know this existed?
No, I didn't know that. I really didn't. I didn't know it existed. So I'm gonna look that up.
You keep talking and I'm going to
But
look it up.
well,
really
here's the thing that
quickly.
gets me with that, because actually you reminded me something. I was thinking about this before with the whole climate change thing, which previously was known as global warming. Okay, all of a sudden, I don't know how many years ago it was now that they changed. Basically, no one says global warming anymore
Oh, they all say.
because we had record cold winters. And
I
it's
know,
like,
so
oh,
they had changed.
what do we got to do?
Really quickly, so I looked up doomsday clock, and yes, that's obviously the that's what you're talking about because you know what you're talking about.
Nuclear
And
annihilation.
I'm going to
Okay,
find
how
another one.
close we're getting.
Yeah, which
okay.
we're 90 seconds to that on like the clock of life.
Right,
Anyway,
right,
so you
right.
continue with what you're
Okay.
saying.
With this whole global warming / climate change / man's destroying the planet thing, you know, there have been multiple times now, it keeps happening, where someone will say, whether it's Al Gore or that Greta Thunberg,
Thunberg.
what?
It's Thunberg.
Well,
the
whatever.
H is
oh,
silent.
because it, yeah. But this is what country she's from?
Sweden, maybe?
Yeah, they don't know how to say the TH sound correctly.
Okay.
We need to help them out.
That's not true.
And anyway, I mean, it happens over and over again where they'll say something like that we only have 8 years, 5 years, 10 years. If we don't do this by such and such a date, it will be too late. Okay. We will, like Al Gore had said, and I don't remember the exact, I don't remember when he said it and exactly when it was going to happen, but he said it was like within a few years, the polar ice caps were going to be completely melted. That didn't happen. Okay. A few years ago, they talked about polar bears, like there aren't going to be any more polar bears. Well, now, I haven't looked to see if this is all true, but I read something the other day that basically said, you know, they're not doing that anymore because the polar bear population is like higher than it's ever been, or it's
No,
high,
I
you know.
didn't
Now
see
that may
that.
be kind of like a Trumpism where maybe it's an exaggeration.
Maybe,
I don't know.
probably. Billions and billions.
But yeah, there are billions of them now, you know. That's like I saw a thing with Kamala Harris saying that 200 million people or something like that in the U.S. died from COVID, had died from COVID.
Okay. So I looked this up. It is called the climate clock. I think maybe in the video he referred to it as some kind of doom, whatever. Anyway, it's the climate clock. It's in New York City. It demonstrates how quickly the planet is approaching 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming given current emissions trends. It also shows the amount of CO2 already emitted and the global warming to date. And it was launched in 2015 to provide like a measuring stick, blah, blah, blah. And it's updated every year to reflect the latest global CO2 emissions trend and the rate of climate warming. So as of, this is just on Wikipedia. So as of April 2nd of this year, the clock counts down to July 21st, 2029 at 12 p.m. And it's been delayed and stuff.
When's the date again?
Well, I don't know if this is accurate. This was in
to
April. It was July 21st, 2029. I don't know what it's actually at right now.
Yeah, I was just wondering what it said at that point.
I mean, I could look it up, but I don't think it matters. But
that's far enough off that it probably hasn't changed. So
it gets delayed when like progress is made towards. I knew you were gonna love this. I can't believe you didn't know about this. This is the perfect example, though, of whatever news or media you're watching, like what they show. On September 20th of 2021, the clock was delayed to 2028, likely because of the COP26 conference and the land protection by indigenous peoples. And so this is what, without, because I didn't know all the details of this, and obviously the fact that it gets moved back makes, it's intuitive because you're making progress in something, then you're like,
but
okay,
progress
I know,
is defined as you pass the bill that I
but
thought was a good idea.
I know. But so what I'm saying is I think this is the perfect example of what we're talking about with like the fear mongering and all that, because this specifically, it doesn't have a goal. It's not like, it's not an attainable,
measurable,
yeah,
clear.
It's not a SMART goal, right?
Yep.
Like SMART being specific, measurable, attainable, or relevant. I never remember what the R is in timely. I never remember what the R is in SMART goals. Anyway, but my point is, so all this is going to do, let's say that this is, let's even argue and say that this is completely accurate, which obviously this is just a man-made, I know you're laughing. This is just a man-made, I mean, everything's a societal construct, whatever, everything's man-made. But let's say that this countdown is accurate, right? That, it doesn't, I don't know how, like, it doesn't make me feel better, because then even if I were like, okay, we're going to do stuff and we're going to get this pushed back and all that, it still is setting like a time in the future when like it's still creating fear, and obviously that's part of the point of it. But it's like, where's the solution then? Are we ever just going to get rid of the clock, or is this just going to exist forever until we all die?
Well,
sorry.
Here's the
that was a
thing.
little
Here's the thing.
rant.
No. That's good. Like, obviously, though, that is real because we have a major hurricane approaching us. Okay, in 12 hours it will be here.
That we
all right.
have.
This is climate change. This would never have happened. Okay.
Actually,
yes.
That reminds me, though, going back to hurricanes specifically, I did see there was another video that was comparing the size of hurricanes over the past, like, actually, I think it might have been all time. I don't remember, because it was showing hurricanes from like the 90s and the 70s and all this stuff, and like size, like relative to each other, like which ones are the biggest one. And so as I started watching the video, I was like, is this some kind of climate change like propaganda thing where it's going to show you that Helene or Milton or whatever else that's forming is going to be the biggest that we've ever seen because of climate change or something. And so I'm watching the video, and like they're kind of like, it's going from smallest to largest. Yeah. And as it's going, it's kind of jumping all over the place. It's like 2018, 2003, 19, whatever. And I'm like, okay, where are we going with this? And the biggest one was actually in, I think, the 90s or the 80s or something. And so I'm watching this and I'm like, so this really shows, though, that, I mean, I don't want to say it completely disproves the climate change theory, but the argument then for people like that are pro climate change cannot be, it's climate change is clearly making hurricanes and
well, that's what I'm saying. That's
weather worse, because it's not true, because the worst hurricane, like the biggest hurricane in existence, was in like the 90s.
Well, and that in recorded history.
In recorded history, right? Yeah,
that's the thing
true.
Too. Two things.
Okay.
I forgot one. I hope it comes back to me. No,
I
that's
just got
okay.
Excited.
Oh, I know what it is.
Yes.
So this isn't just on one side. Right. So you have your climate change extremists who they literally think we're all dying, and they'll, like you said, they'll lay down in the middle of the road. They'll do things like throw paint on priceless paintings and things. So that's one side. But the other side is people that actually believe that the government seeded clouds to create a hurricane or a catastrophe so that people can't go vote. Okay. And I'm sorry.
Oh, is that a thing?
Yes, it was. What's her name? Is she a congresswoman?
Stop.
Or I think it was that Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Because I also, earlier in this conversation, I thought about people were saying that Helene was manufactured by the government.
That's what I'm saying.
Because there are like lithium things in the parts of North Carolina that got. I don't. Look,
here's the point.
I hadn't heard that one, though,
and that's
for
kind of
voting.
like a conspiracy thing. But how can you? I don't understand. All right, if you believe in climate change, right, then you kind of have to believe that, because to me, it's unreal for you to think that people can have that much of an effect on the weather. Yet, for us to affect one storm, we can't. Okay, and I think either side is insane.
That's a really good argument.
Yeah, I think either side is literally insane. Before I forget, the other thing.
Yeah.
If you want, because my point is, whatever opinion you're going to have, it can't come down to, well, there's scientific consensus. You can't argue with this.
4 out of 5 dentists.
In other words, you don't have to do any thinking, any research. Just whatever.
This is what I'm talking about. As you're on this rant and you're like, the scientific
I didn't hear
consensus,
what you said, though, because I
said 4 out of 5 dentists.
Yes, exactly.
And now it's not as funny because it wasn't even that funny the first time.
Yeah, that's true. And for anyone who is actually interested in this, on X, Facebook, search Chris Martz. It's Chris Martz or Chris Martz Weather.
People still use Facebook?
This guy is literally, I think he's only 21, okay? And he's a climatology major or something to do with atmospheric stuff. And he's good, though. He doesn't, he gets in discussions with people all the time, but he backs everything up with details, right? So if someone says something like, this is historic, we've never seen anything like this before, if you didn't need proof, Or if you didn't believe that there was climate change, how is this not enough proof for you? Okay. And he'll like hit them back with so much data and so
Okay.
much actual
But
real data.
But here, my issue with that is, which we had talked about this in maybe the conspiracy theory episode, or was it? Oh no, this is just in the listener feedback that we had talked about this,
Mhm.
where you find data that supports what your view is. And so I'm not saying he's wrong, but this is my whole problem.
You could do that on either side.
You could.
I agree.
And this is my whole problem with climate change when I'm saying you have people that are like lying in the street and you have people that don't believe it's an issue at all.
Mhm.
And there's data to back up both sides of that.
Yep.
And I'm over here like, okay, what is actually happening? I don't know. What is quote unquote like the real picture? We don't know
that's the
because
thing.
it's all propaganda for whatever you believe,
Well,
like whatever people believe.
And the thing is, and I've probably said this before, but for me personally, part of it comes down to what I would consider common sense, right?
I don't
Like
think
in
that
other words,
works here.
but what I'm saying is, I just implicitly know that in the scheme of things, we don't have that much data, right? We have a very limited data set. We have a very small number of years. The worst, okay, in my personal experience, the worst storm I remember, the worst weather event was what they called, because they didn't name winter storms then, two different names. I think mainly it goes by the name of Superstorm 93, right? The night or the blizzard of 93,
never mind.
okay? Wherein, because you weren't born yet. It was a year
No, I
before
was
you were
thinking,
born.
Go ahead.
Well, point is, we got like 35, 36 inches of snow, right? It was amazing because it was like 2 days ahead. Well, really for 5-6 days ahead of time, they were talking about this major storm. And I remember leaving work on a Friday, and at that point, they had changed the forecast to 1 to 3 feet of snow, which was so funny because a lot of times you hear 1 to 3 inches. It was 1 to 3 feet. Well, we wound up in Hazleton with 3 feet of snow. I think it was Sunday morning. I'm out shoveling the snow, and there were literally seagulls flying overhead in northeastern Pennsylvania.
The snow? Where were you gonna go?
Well, you had to. You never knew what could happen.
No. I think that's what I was thinking of though, because I know we have pictures, obviously, from like when we were from when Caitlin was little. We don't have a lot of pictures from when I was.
Yeah. We'll have an episode about this.
I know how bitter I am about it.
The
anyway,
first child versus the second versus the third. Go ahead.
There's no competition. It's not even anything. So we have pictures of Kate. It must be Caitlin that she's like standing right next to the snow,
and the snow towers over her.
Yeah, it's
because the thing is, when you're
so crazy.
Obviously when you're shoveling, then you're piling it on. It's even higher than it was. But it was. I think it was 35 inches was the total. I couldn't even get out the front door. I literally could not push the front door
shovel the snow.
I had to go out and through the garage because the door opened in, and I had to make a path around the front.
I feel like we're not taking the time to. You're just glossing over the fact that there are 3+ feet of snow. And you're like, well, someone's got to shovel it.
Well, no,
nothing was open. Nobody was going anywhere.
Well, the funny thing is, and it's not like there was a requirement where I live. Some places they say you have to have the sidewalk cleared in so many hours. Well, we didn't have a sidewalk there, right?
I know.
So there wasn't any requirement like that.
Just did
but
it
to
for
me,
fun.
it was just always an automatic thing. It was like, oh, it snowed. I got to go out and shovel, right?
like an NPC.
Well, it's like when you're a kid, you want to have a snowball fight. It's like as you get older, it's like, ooh, I get to shovel. No, I was not looking forward to shoveling 3 feet of snow. It was great exercise. I remember we made like an igloo and everything under. But anyway, my point is, so there was that, and then 3 years later in '96, there was a blizzard that we had about the same amount of snow. It was like real light, so it wasn't as bad. But my point is, okay, so that was like, say, 96, right? 93. That was like 30 years ago, okay? There hasn't been one as bad as either of those since then. Yeah. There hasn't been one probably within a foot of those since then. Now, if we were just talking about global warming, people could say, well, it's because global warming, it's
right.
like, except it's not. We're talking about climate change now.
Yeah.
Right? Because in 2013, what was actually 2013, 2014, that winter, I remember it was really bad. It was like across the whole country, it was cold. There were really long cold snaps and all. and that's those times when you think, yeah, global warming and all that.
Mhm.
I remember it because Frozen came out the end of 2013 and people kept saying, oh, somebody made Elsa mad, all that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. Let it go.
Yeah. Okay. But rim shot.
I hate
um,
myself.
Anyway,
I
now
feel like-
the thing is, that's all anecdotal, right? That's
That
anecdotal.
is.
Anybody could turn around. So in other words, I'm doing the opposite of what people do when they say, oh, there's one bad storm, we're all going to die. It's just dumb. That's the bottom line. It's like people need to take time to at least inform themselves. Obviously, you're not going to go out and install temperature sensors and barometric pressure sensors all around the globe so you can get the data for
well,
yourself. But,
Yeah.
inform yourself a little bit.
I know. I guess just going back to what I said, what does informing yourself actually look like?
I think you
No
read
sources are
both.
trusted.
Well, you read both.
They say completely opposite things because
know.
people find data that supports their
I know, and it's hard, and it's going to get harder now with AI and all of that,
Yeah.
right? Like all of this, but you really have to think. You have to say, does this really make sense?
Oh, also, because you just mentioned that, I feel like we should note that we were mentioned on another podcast.
We were.
We
Yes.
were. And what did they say? I don't remember.
They said it was thoughtful yet informative. They specifically said that you were funny. And they made me sound like I just was opinionated and an idiot.
They said I was funny, and they also said, but surprisingly deep at times.
Yes, that's right. It said it was surprisingly deep. Maybe this will be one of those times.
Maybe this will be
Probably
one of
not.
those times.
But did they mean deep as in thoughtful or deep as in it's getting pretty deep in here? Like just like garbage, Okay.
I want everybody
She's
to
giving
know,
me
since we don't
disapproving
record
look.
the video for these, he, in that silence, he was just pointing over and over at the ground, like
I was-
gesturing.
But also I
To
was
the
trying
deep.
to elicit something from you.
Nothing.
Anything.
You'll not
Okay.
get a thing from me. All right. I think this is a lovely place to wrap it on up. I don't have anything else to say.
I think so too. We probably could keep going on about this, but I guess
Well,
the
you
point
could
where
for sure.
no, it's more or less it's basically
We're just-
repeating
yeah.
it over and over
So,
again.
this
I
is-
agree.
this
I'm
is-
going to stop.
You just got
What is that now? You're motioning,
You
pointing
just gotta
down.
hit the.
You're saying it's deep in here. It's getting too deep.
I'm saying hit the stop record button, because otherwise we're just gonna sit here and I'm gonna have to fill the space with some kind of pointless
Pull the
chatter.
lever, Kronk. I got it. I got it. There it is. Is your microphone working?
How well?
Oh, yeah. I have to clear my throat.
Until you. Wait, was that actually mine? Oh no, that was mine. Okay.
Okay. Check 1, 2. Check.
Are you recording?
Check 1, 2. Yes.
You recorded that?
Yes. I left this on from the last time we did a podcast. Okay.
Goodbye.
This coffee's horrible.
Well, you know what they say. Why are you the way that you are? I hate so much
Too hot.
about the things you choose to be.
It's too hot. I have to slurp it so that I don't burn myself.
You could just stop
Don't
it
burn
here. You could
myself.
just stop it here. We'll restart.
Hold on. Should I stop it?
Yeah.
Oh, no.